Hey, so I think a common problem some, maybe private pilots, instrument pilots have when they begin their training is how to determine what headings to fly to intercept radials at any given intercept angle, whether it's a 30-degree intercept, 60-degree intercept, whatever. So this is how I sort of taught myself when I did my training. I've never really seen it taught this way. I think it's maybe a little bit unconventional, but it works for me. Hopefully, it works for you.
So here we're looking at a typical avionics stack for a small general aviation plane. You may often see two identical units like we have here. This adds redundancy to the system should one fail. That being said, let's just dive in. The two left-hand numbers are the active and standby communication frequencies, and the standby frequency is set using that black knob there. You can then toggle between both frequencies using the transfer button. The two numbers on the right are the active and standby VOR frequencies, and they work exactly the same way as the COM frequencies. Let's take a look at the actual instrument now. There may actually be quite a lot to look at, but really you only got to concern yourself with two things for now. The first is the course deviation indicator, or CDI, which tells us how many degrees off a given track our plane is. Max deflection is usually 10 degrees, so anything more than that, you won't exactly know how many degrees off you are, but it's not a big deal. And the second thing is the to from indicator, which we'll get into a bit more later on. I honestly think the best way to really learn is to just talk our way through an example. So let's say we're asked to track inbound on the 240 radial. First things first, before accepting any instruction, make sure you fully understand it and you can comply with it. After doing so, tune in the frequency for the VOR if you haven't already done so. After that, identify it via the Morse code identifier and cross-reference the dots and dashes you hear with the ones you see on the map or an approach chart. A typical VOR identifier might sound something like this.
Now, more advanced avionics allow pilots to identify VOR using its alphabetic identifier on a digital display, but that's just too fancy for me right now. So now that we've tuned into the VOR and identified it, it's time to get going along radial 240. Now, twist the OBS so that the desired track is right above that yellow pointer. Now, it's important to remember you always got to twist to track. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Twist to track. So if we're going inbound on radial 240, our track is 060. Just add or subtract 180, whatever makes the math easier. And if we're going outbound on the radial 240, we would just put 240 on top because that's our desired course. Doesn't matter what you're doing, always, always, always twist to track. Now, take note of where that CDI is. In our case, it's to the left. But that doesn't mean we just got to blindly make a left turn to intercept our track. Get out of that habit of thinking left or right and start thinking of headings to fly. Now, I want you to mentally shade in all the headings on the left side of the indicator, like you see here. This is where that to from indicator will now come into play. Just imagine the tip of that triangle points towards the VOR. It doesn't, that's not its purpose, but just bear with me. And the flat side of the triangle points away from the VOR. Since we want to go to the VOR, mentally shade in the headings on the upper part of the indicator. Now you see how the top left quadrant was shaded twice? This tells you that you can fly any heading between 330 and 059 to intercept the radial 240 inbound. Now, 060 isn't included because that would just have us parallel the radial. And 059, for all practical purposes, is kind of useless. But theoretically, yeah, you could do it. But practically, you wouldn't. Now it's easy to really figure out what headings I have to fly for any given intercept angle. Let's say ATC tells you intercept at 90 degrees for whatever reason. Okay, fly heading 330. That's 90 degrees to the left of 060. If I want a 30-degree intercept angle, then I would just fly heading 030. And I would maintain that heading until the needle's centered, then turn on course. This method works in any situation, inbound, outbound, whatever. It's uh, it's never failed me. I find it very useful. But to be quite honest with you, like I said before, I haven't really seen it taught this way. This is kind of just a way I've taught myself. If it works for you, cool. If it doesn't, then let me know what does work for you.